flies, painting red and blue skies with his fiery cry. He's the world's watchdog, calling out the bluff. Right-wing swagger, but his heart's pretty tough. He's a Republican dragon with his truthful slight. Fights the battles unseen in the shadows of the night. From policy to passion, he breaks it all down, giving a voice to the voiceless, wearing his crown. Caffeine-fueled mornings, the smoke curls dance. Fluffy at his feet, giving life one more chance. Through algorithms and bias, he cuts straight and clear. Michael's roar echoes in the hemisphere. Michael Bass roars through the screen, he flies, painting red and blue skies with his fiery cry. He's the world's watchdog, calling out the bluff. Right-wing swagger, but his heart's pretty tough. No sound bites allowed is his ultimate creed. A dragon's perspective where facts are the seed. Standing tall on his battlefield of thoughts, guarding the truth that others forgot. Michael Bass roars through the screen, he flies, painting red and blue skies with his fiery cry. He's the world's watchdog, calling out the bluff. Right-wing swagger, but his heart's pretty tough.
Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us. That's right, it's No Sound Bites Allowed, and I am your host, Michael Voss. I'm here in the Bronx, New York. Today is November 12th. It's 7:32, right on the mark, and we're right on time. I want to thank you for being here with us in the middle of the week. Spend a little time as we go through some of the issues that matter to all of us. Yeah, it's winter, and winter is coming. That means we're getting the cold weather and my throat gets a little dry. Can't be helped. So we're going to be talking about a few things that have happened since Sunday that I think are important. Not all of them are things that you've heard about or that the mainstream news media has been really focusing on. And I think they should be. I think it really is important, like what happened with UC Berkeley, like some of the news about the economy, what's going on with the government shutdown, of course. But there's even more than just that. What's happening in the future with 2026 and some of the elections that will shape America, much like the 2025 election in New York City. Zoran Mandami really has shaped America for the next decade, at least, if possibly for the entire future of our nation. We need to talk about these conversations, but I think there's something else we need to talk about before we get to that. And I look forward to hearing everyone's comments. And remember, your super chats, your Rumble rants, if you go to the Zazzle store, you join the Patreon, you go to PayPal, wherever you go with that's connected to No Soundbites Allowed, we're going to take every dollar that we receive and we will give 50% to the Jericho project on January 2026 to make sure that families, the homeless, and veterans will be taken care of, because I do not have faith in Zoran Mandami or the Democratic Socialists of America. And the best way to help people who are homeless or are veterans or families is our own community, individuals directly taking action, because look at what happened with the government shutdown. Look how long and how much that has hurt so many people for no good reason. And we'll get into that in just a moment. So please, throughout the rest of the year, if you do have an opportunity, please, whether it's $1, whether it's $10, $100, whatever the amount, 50% will be going to the Jericho project in January 2026 to help those who need it most. So I do hope you will consider that. But it is the holiday season, and holidays are a difficult time for a lot of people. And I want to take a moment here before we do anything else to make sure that I do address this. Where is it? There it is. Earlier today, I was talking with a friend of mine, and they made me aware that someone they knew self deleted, that this person ended themselves. And my friend was very upset because he was absolutely sure he might have been able to help this person, that he could have turned things around, that this person would still be with all of us, with his wife, his loved ones, his family, and friends, that he would still be here today if he just knew that this person was in trouble, that there was some kind of communication. If the guy just reached out and said, "Hey, I'm having dark thoughts, I'm having difficult days." And that made me think, because we talk about this often in this season, the holiday season, and we're right at the beginning of it, but a lot of people self delete throughout the holidays. They feel alone, they feel unloved, unwanted. Uh, they find it difficult. It's a difficult time for a lot of people. And to each and every one of those people, I want to say, this passes. It's something that happens every year, but it also is something that we get past every year. And you can get past this as well. Don't be absorbed by those dark thoughts, those negative emotions. Reach out to somebody, anybody. Reach out to a friend, to a coworker. You know what? If you don't want to tell anyone that you know that you're having these troubles, reach out to the suicide hotline. You can text or call 988 anywhere in the nation. Just text 988, and 24 hours a day, whether the government is open or closed, there is someone who will be on the line to speak with you, to hear you out, to talk with you about whatever it is that is troubling you. And of course, you can always reach out on my channel. Leave a comment, leave a chat. Say, "Hey, this is bothering me. I have some dark thoughts. I have some negative emotions here." And it doesn't have to be about politics. I want everyone who watches this broadcast, who hears my voice, I want you here in 2026. I want you here with me in 2027. I want you to hear the good shows and the bad shows. I want you to laugh sometimes, whether it's with me or against me. I want you around. No matter what, you can be a Democrat or socialist, I don't care. I want you to be here. So please reach out. Reach out to a friend. It's one of the things that we never really hear about. My friend was devastated today because he didn't hear anything. He didn't know. And he would have been happy to speak to this individual and to try and help them, to show them that they should be around for 2026 and 2027 in the next decade or two. That not having that individual with us hurts more than the negative emotions they think they were feeling. So I wanted to share that with you guys. And we do throughout the entire holiday season. You'll hear us talk about this more and more because it can never be said enough. Because if we save even one person, then that's worth the conversation. It's worth the time. And I think it's important. And we do this year after year after year because it's important. It's very important. And I hope it does help at least one person. Remember, you can text on your phone or you can call 988 24/7, and there will always be someone there. You can reach out to your friends. That's what social media is for. Reach out to someone and just say, "Let's talk." I remember during the lockdowns, I was having some dark thoughts during that time. It was difficult. It was just me and my dog in my house. That's it. And we had been isolated for 2 years. And financially, it was a difficult time. I was losing my house, which I did subsequently lose. And I wasn't sure what the future was. And I remember I took my own advice one day. And I reached out online on Facebook and just left a generic message. I want to hear from somebody. I just want to go outside and walk around. And I had someone who I kind of knew didn't agree with me politically and said, come on out. We'll just walk. We'll walk around. We'll, walk for a mile or so, just hang out and just walk around, be outside. That made all the difference. Changed my viewpoint, it lifted me up. It made me feel so much better. Just because I asked, does anyone want to go walk? I'm feeling down. I'm feeling bad. Somebody want to go and just walk with me? I'd put it out in the ether. And someone answered back. And it made a difference. And it can make a difference for you. Again, if you're having these dark thoughts, if you're having these negative emotions. So just reach out. There's nothing wrong in doing that. If I could do it, I was like 55, man. And if I could do it, you can do it too. Please do. All right. So with that said, I want to get into the program itself because I think it's important. And again, I also want to mention, and I'll put through the show the video of my little short 30-second video. I'll put it out later about the Jericho project. But I want to talk about the president's approval, President Donald Trump. Because throughout this week, after the election in New York, throughout this week, as we see the government shutdown coming to its end, finally closing, and the government opening back up, we've been told Donald Trump lost. This was a failure. You heard from Hakeem Jeffries and Chuck Schumer over and over and over again that Donald Trump was losing. He was getting beat up, that the nation was turning against him. And we've been hearing this since January, literally, that every news station, all the major news media, the left-leaning news media, have been telling us that the entire nation is turning against Donald Trump. MAGA, America First, Republicans, they're all being thrown under a bus. And 2025, the New York mayoral race proved it. The race in Virginia proved it. The race in New Jersey for governor proved that, nope, the American people have completely given up on MAGA. They've given up on Donald Trump, and they want Democrats. And that's why the government got shut down. And that's why the government shutdown was a success. That's what they're telling us. That's not the truth. That's not the truth at all. See, here's the president's job approval number. And what you will see is many of the left will cherry pick this list. This is from Real Clear Politics. And it's every single major credible poll on the president's approval that you can look at and go there any day. They're a neutral site, and they will give you the aggregate. And they'll say, oh my God, see, Donald Trump, he's down 11 points. He only has 42.8% approval at this time. He is falling apart. He's lost the public. That's not really true. See, if you actually look down and look at what the trend has been, and yes, Donald Trump's approval has been dropping like every president's approval drops as they get past the honeymoon phase, which is normally about the first 3 to 6 months. And you see that trend drop down. That's true for Obama. That's true for Joe Biden. That's true for either Bush or Reagan. Every president has experienced this. But they're emphasizing this for Donald Trump and for Democrats and for Republicans. But if you actually look right here, you'll see that where Donald Trump is right now, let's round the number to 43% approval rate. That puts him above Joe Biden. That puts him above most of the term of Obama. It puts Donald Trump at about the same level as where he was when he was the 45th president of the United States. And we were promised at that time that the United States was going to go into a depression. we were on the edge of World War III, that everything was going to fail and collapse, and Trump would be a dictator, and there would never be elections again. This is everything that we heard the first time from 2016 to 2020. Everything you're hearing right now was already said. This is just an echo chamber, the reverberation of what we've heard before. Donald Trump right now is doing as well, if not better, than most of the time when he was the president the first time. He's doing better than Joe Biden through almost his entire 75% of Joe Biden's presidency was lower approval than where we are right now. Even Obama in his second term had less approval than what we see with Donald Trump. So it's not that everything's falling apart. You're being told a lie. And as we have seen from the major news media over the last decade, they're more than willing to lie to your face over and over again. Matter of fact, in England, the United Kingdom, the BBC just lost one of their key figures because the BBC, this is a internationally recognized organization, the government television of the United Kingdom, lied to their people, lied to the world. They took story to say Orange Man bad. And that's just not the reality of it. It's not even close. So I think that's important for us to understand. Let me look at it from a different point of view. And again, the mainstream media won't have this conversation with you. They won't take the time to walk this through with you. Let's look at the direction of the country. Again, we're being told Republicans have lost. The off-year elections proved that Donald Trump and his approval rating proved that Democrats have, everyone's gone towards the Democrats. It's not true. Let me prove it to you. So what we see, direction of the country is at 37.2%. That's not unusual. In fact, again, if we look at what's been happening over time, again, we see that where we are right now, more Americans think that we are on the right track than under the Biden administration, than under the Obama administration. This is important. Now, the media won't tell you this, that look at how there was such a huge spike under Donald Trump and look at where we are versus where we've been under Biden, where we were under, this is the entire 2 terms of Barack Obama. And we were underwater. We were down at about 30%. The nation has more faith in where we're going right now than under Obama or under Biden. And you won't hear that from MSNBC. You won't hear that from CNN or CBS or ABC News. They won't tell you that Donald Trump has more approval and more people think that America is improving than under the last several presidents, each of which were Democrats. Now, I think that's important because it gives us context on where we are and where we're going. And I'm not saying that Donald Trump is perfect by any means. No. He's like any other man, like any other president. He's got his good points, his bad points. He's failed on some things, but he has consistently, roughly about 75% of the promises that he has made in the campaign trail, he is either done or he is in the process of doing. And that is more than pretty much any president in my lifetime. That's important. And again, you aren't given this context. And people are still happy. They still approve of getting what they voted for. 77 million people, the majority, voted for what we are doing right now. Overwhelmingly. You're not being told that. And I have to ask you, why do you think they won't tell you this? Why do you think they're hiding this from you? Well, it's because Democrats are desperate right now. So as we can see right now, and let me update this once again just to make sure. This is again coming from the BBC, and the US House is set to vote on ending the government shutdown. But wait, what happened? We heard over the weekend Democrats decided to vote with Republicans to open the government. Period. No deals, no special offers, real simple. They asked, all the Democrats wanted was to have a conversation about Obamacare that they were already going to have a conversation about anyway. That's the only thing that changed. And 8 Democrats crossed the aisle and voted with Republicans. Finally, after 43 days, they crossed the aisle and said, hey, let's open up the government to allow our military, to allow our TSA and our air traffic controllers to get their back pay, to get paid to do their job. How about we spend the money on the SNAP benefits to make sure that Americans across the country will get 100% of the government aid that they have been used to, that they should be receiving? It's real simple. And it only took 16 votes. 16 times that Republicans went to the Democrats and said, do me a favor, just vote. Let's open the government and we can have the conversation. We can talk about the deal you want to make, but let's open the government for the time being rather than punish American citizens. And Democrats said, well, this is about, in October, this whole thing was about health care. It was about the Obamacare, the ACA, except they gave that up because in November it was all about SNAP benefits, food stamps. Well, was it primarily about Obamacare or was it about food stamps? They changed the story. Why? Because they realized, everyone noticed, what Democrats were fighting for, the $1.5 trillion, was to help illegal aliens first and foremost, and American citizens on the back end. The first, they were looking to protect illegal aliens, criminals in the United States. That has been their focus throughout all of 2025. Look at all of the riots across the country, and we'll talk about Chicago in just a moment, but look at the riots. It's about protecting illegal aliens in America, not about protecting American citizens. That's been the focus of the left for a long time now. And they suddenly realized, as they got past the election and they were looking at the responses by people who went out and voted, when they looked at the fact that Democrats lost in New York, the Democratic Party lost, the Democratic socialism won in New York City, and that woke them up. And people were talking about Omar Fateh, who was in Minneapolis, and they're starting to see, wait a minute, the socialists are getting momentum, not Democrats. Change is getting momentum. This is why Nancy Pelosi has retired. And I'm pretty sure you're going to see Dick Durbin. You're going to see Chuck Schumer. You're going to see a lot of the older Democrats like Jerry Nadler. They're all going to retire. They're done. The new guard of Democrats are going to be coming up, and the Democrats are terrified that they're not going to have control of their party anymore. The socialists, the DSA, they may have the new power within the Democratic Party. And where they take that could be terrifying for people. Now, they're still on the House floor. We have people like Hakeem Jeffries, who's trying to reinforce this idea that this has all been a Republican problem, except all the Republicans voted to open the government, and the Democrats didn't. The Democrats were the one holding everyone accountable, and Democrats realized they couldn't keep doing this, especially now that so many people weren't going to be able to get the food that they need because of the Democrats and their willingness to stand out and say, no, we won't open the government unless the illegal aliens get the coverage that they want. It's been amazing to me to see how, and it's just all disingenuous. Why? Because if it was about health care, why would Democrats in November, right after the election, why would they switch the story to talk about food stamps? If it's about health care, then it's about health care. And you need health care in November just as much as you needed it in October. But they abandoned the health care. Why? Because it wasn't getting enough attention. Democrats weren't getting enough donations. They didn't get enough votes on healthcare, so they switched and said, well, no, this is about food stamps. It's about people starving, and it's Trump and all the MAGA people. They're starving Americans. But Trump actually voted. Trump isn't elected. You notice, and I really noticed this. I got to say, have you noticed that for the Democrats, for the left, Donald Trump is running for every single race? He's running for county executive. He's running for the mayor of whatever your town is. He was running for every seat in your local elections. He was running for your statewide elections. He was running for AG and for governor. He's running for senator and for Congress. He's running for every position. Why? Because Democrats, every single Democrat, made it about Donald Trump. Oh, well, we got to fight the president. I've got to beat the president. You're a city councilman, like in Binghamton, New York. You're a city councilman. You're a local elected official. The president has nothing to do with you. The president isn't in Congress. Donald Trump right now is not sitting in the House of Representatives voting because he has no vote there. He wasn't in on Sunday and Monday. He wasn't in the Senate voting because he's not a senator. That's not what he does. But Democrats want you to think Donald Trump is in all of these positions doing everything everywhere. And that tells you how much of a lie you are being told, how much this is propaganda trying to obscure the fact that Democrats have no plan. And they purely and simply want power. That's all this is about. It's about power for the Democrats. It's not like they're trying to actually do anything special. They just want to be back in power. And they're willing to do anything to you to get that to happen. It's terrifying to me. Now, I know some people won't like that answer. They won't like that reality, but it's the truth. Look at the evidence in front of you. Again, you don't have to believe me. Look back on the headlines throughout all of October, and then look at the headlines for November up to this day. Democrats will say anything that they think will give them more opportunities to win. And right now, they've been planning for 2026 for quite some time. But we're pretty sure that whenever, and eventually they will, when the Democrats get done trying to blame Donald Trump for the last 43 days, they're eventually going to finish. There's going to be a vote. Once again, Republicans, just like the last time, we expect all the Republicans are going to vote to open the government. And it will be on the Democrats in the House to vote to open the government. And then the government will be opened. Donald Trump is, as according to all major news media reports, he's in the White House. He's waiting for the document. He's ready to open the government right now. If they take the vote, if they take the vote right this second, within the next hour, Donald Trump will open the government. He'll sign the continuing resolution and the government will be open. Done. Right now, we're just waiting for Hakeem Jeffries and the rest of the Democrats to stop trying to gaslight everyone to make you think that Donald Trump, he doesn't want to feed you. Then why is he sitting in the White House right now waiting for the bill so he can sign it into law? Why is he eagerly awaiting the vote to be done so he can open the government? If he was such a tyrant, if he was so interested in having people starve, he'd be golfing. He's in the White House. It should make you think about this. And that's what I really want is you should be thinking about this, that what the Democrats are saying and what reality is do not line up. They do not make sense. They're not the same thing. The reality we can see around us tells a very different story than what Democrats want you to believe, because they don't want you to think. They want you to obey. That's what they teach in college. That's what they teach in high school. You have to obey, not to critically think. And I really find that to be one of the downfalls of our country at this time. It's driving us apart. Now, this, of course, has not gone without some amount of kickback. I mean, even the African newsman, and when I say African, I mean he's from the continent of Africa. He is a reporter for several African nations, Simon Atebe, and he even points out Democrats shut down America for 43 days. Notice, he's finally admitting, the news media are finally admitting, this was a Democrat shutdown. This was Schumer's shutdown, not Donald Trump, not Republicans. Even an African reporter is telling us this, that they shut it down for 43 days and then they caved in, they backed down and got nothing. That's important because that's the truth. That has always been the truth. And I mean, we all learned a little bit more. We got a refresher on what I call civics. This is high school civics. We could have looked at the votes, and many people did over the last 43 days, and it was the Democrats holding this whole thing up. And again, for those who thought, well, Mike, you're making it up, Donald Trump, he's not sitting there just waiting for this. Here it is. This is coming from USA Today, hardly a right-wing organization, hardly right-wing news. USA Today, Trump plans to sign the bill ending the shutdown tonight as the House prepares to vote. Tonight. He's there in the White House. This is the guy they're telling you wants you to starve. This is the man they're trying to tell you. These are the Republicans they tell you have shut down the government completely. They're eagerly awaiting the opportunity to open the government, to feed the people who are hungry, to pay for our soldiers, to pay for our airports, to get our flights back. There's the news. There's the news media spin, which is biased. And then there's the reality that we see that they don't want to talk about. You don't have to like it. You can tell me, I hate, you don't like Orange Man. It's Orange Man bad. Fantastic. You can say that all you want. But you also have to recognize the reality that this isn't a Donald Trump problem. This is a Chuck Schumer Democrat problem. And I'm still waiting. I know this is going to come out soon. But Democrats are looking, they're desperate right now. They're trying to find anything they can to try and turn this around. They've suddenly lost all of their legs. All of the issues that they have been saying. Oh, we were going to go to war. We didn't. The American economy is going into a depression. It didn't. Tariffs were going to destroy the economy, and you wouldn't be able to afford any food anymore. Do you remember that? That was back in April. Didn't happen. You can't, Donald Trump's going to get rid of all the elections. You heard that from Gavin Newsom, not more than, it was October, a month ago. He was saying, there's never going to be another election. No one stopped any elections. Donald Trump hasn't stopped anyone from voting. There's no bill by Republicans in the House or the Senate to stop any election to change the way America is going to be voting. Didn't happen. That's not a reality. That's the media spin. But you're not supposed to think about that. You're supposed to get caught up in the emotion and go, oh, Orange Man, bad, MAGA, evil, Republicans, demonic. But that's not reality. And we need to get back to reality. Because our nation is suffering because of this propaganda. That's what it is. Propaganda that's meant only to divide us. And if we keep dividing the nation, we break the foundation. We don't have a nation. We have nothing to unify ourselves. We're no longer Americans. We're just peoples from different places in the world on this one continent, on this landmass. We're no longer a nation. We're more like tribes. And that's not good. That's not good at all. Let me see here. I do have a comment here, and this is coming from Joel. Hey, Joel. And Joel says, my representatives, Schumer, Gillibrand, Tonko, all tell me Trump is cruel and is starving children. I'm not supposed to think. I'm supposed to have bad feelings about Trump. Yeah, that's what they told you. And then they said, oh, yeah, but we'll just open the government. They opened the government. Now, it's kind of funny because, and I know some people, well, no, those 8 Democrats that switched sides, they all did this behind Chuck Schumer's back, except every single one of those Democrats, including Dick Durbin, they're all safe. They don't have an election coming up. None of them are up for re-election. These were safe Democrats that could make this vote and wait for people to forget. And of course, Chuck Schumer voted no, but he already knew there were 8 votes saying yes, and there were only needed 5. So not only did he get the 5 that was necessary, he got 3 more extra votes. Extra Democrats saying, no, we got to open up the government now. This was a setup because you're supposed to think how evil Trump is as he sits and waits so he can open the government as soon as possible so that American citizens will be able to go about their lives as a regular basis. And what did Democrats get from this? What did they get? Joel says they were working on Schumer's orders to end the shutdown. I think so. So do a lot of Democrats. People like Jon Stewart are out screaming about this, and we're going to talk about that in just a second. But the Democrats are mad because you're going to get fed. I want you to understand, what are they upset about? They're upset that illegal aliens aren't getting more of your money. They're upset that you're going to get food in your home to feed your families and yourself. This is what Democrats are upset about. They're angry that you're going to be able to take care of yourself and that their special interest group, illegal aliens, criminals, aren't getting your money. This is what Democrats are upset about. Yeah, I don't understand how people vote Democrat. I don't. And I don't understand how this is supposed to be a good thing for America. It just doesn't make any sense. But let me show you what I mean. Let me show you what I mean about this because it really blew me away. Here's Van Jones. Van Jones, a self-declared socialist, much like Zoran Mandami, who worked in the Obama administration. Van Jones, absolutely a Democrat, says it hurts that Democrats were unable to force Trump to fix Obamacare. See, this is Van Jones, and this is Van Jones saying this yesterday, Veterans Day. He was upset because Obamacare, a bill that was created when Van Jones was in the government under the Obama administration over a decade ago, something that Democrats have had opportunity to fix. And I'll go into my response to him in just 1 second. He wanted Trump to fix Obamacare. Republicans don't want Obamacare. Let me go on with his comment because I'm going to explain this. So he says because Trump didn't fix Obamacare. But Democrats still got more out of this shutdown than any prior shutdown going back decades. What did Democrats get? Notice he doesn't say, what did Democrats get? What did the Democrats actually get? Some PR saying that Orange Man bad? Well, Democrats have been saying that for over 10 years. For 11 years now, Democrats have been saying Orange Man bad. So they didn't win anything new there. SNAP benefits are going out, and that had nothing to do with Democrats. Republicans were happy to feed people who are on food stamps. So they didn't win anything there. Illegal aliens aren't getting your tax money to pay for their medical bills. So Democrats didn't win anything there. In fact, everything that the Democrats asked for the last 43 days, they got none of it. So I don't understand. Maybe it's because I'm not a socialist like Van Jones or Zoran Mandami, but I can't name one thing that Democrats got. By the way, if there is a Democrat watching this, and you probably hate watching the show, fantastic. What did the Democrats win? What did they get? According to Van Jones, a guy who shows up on all of the left-leaning news media programs, a guy who makes more money in an hour than I make in a year, he can't name it. He's telling me it exists, but he won't tell me what it is. He won't tell you what it is, but he's telling you how you should feel about it. He's telling you what you should think about it. He's already made the decision for you. Don't think. Democrats did well. This was a success. This is a success story for Democrats. I don't know how. He can't name anything. He can't give you an example, but it's a success story. An orange man bad. He goes on to say, that sad truth is that most government closures do end with proponents of one of the government shutdown coming up short regarding their demands. Well, Democrats did come up short. They got nothing. But you can go through this for himself, but I had to stop. And the thing that got me is just that first sentence. And he said, force Trump to fix Obamacare. Why does Donald Trump have to fix Obamacare? If Obamacare was such a great bill, and this is going back to the healthcare thing that they started with, fantastic. If Obamacare was good, why does it need to be fixed? If it was such a brilliant plan, why is it dependent on taking your tax money and giving it to insurance companies? Think about that. Since day one, we have never had Obamacare fully activated. Right this second, Obamacare doesn't really work. There are huge portions of Obamacare that is in that 2,000-page law that have never been actually done. They don't work. They've never turned it on because Obamacare can't work. It always has to have a government subsidy. The government has to pay, which means you have to pay for Obamacare, which adds to the cost. And by the way, there is not one promise about Obamacare that was given by Joe Biden, that was given by Barack Obama or Chuck Schumer or Nancy Pelosi or Van Jones. None of the promises they made to you in 2010 have come true. Not one. I've been covering this since they were talking about it in 2008. I have video upon video. All of the promises failed. Everything that they told you about Obamacare wasn't true. And many of the things, like you can keep your own doctor, you don't have to change your policy, that the insurance rates were going to stay stable, flat, and they wouldn't rise up. None of them have been true. None of them. And they wanted Donald Trump, a Republican, to fix their mess. Wait a minute, does that make any sense? Republicans have been trying to repeal. There have been over 43 attempts to repeal Obamacare since the day that it got passed. Republicans despise Obamacare because it's a failure. The insurance companies, they love it. Unions, they love it. But everyone else, it's not a good deal. So we've tried to repeal it. Nobody wants it. Why would we fix it? The suggestions we made to fix Obamacare in 2009 were ignored. Obama laughed at them. They threw them out the window. Do you remember? They had the live debate where we had Republicans sitting down with Democrats talking about the terms of Obamacare, and the Democrats said, forget it, we're not doing any of that. Great. Thank you for the hot air. We're not going to do any of it. And thus it failed. So why do Republicans have to fix a Democrat mistake? A mistake and a policy that Republicans have been upfront and honest with the American people and said, we don't want this. It's a bad piece of legislation. It doesn't work. It costs more than it should. We never wanted this. We got to get rid of it. Why did Van Jones expect that Donald Trump would fix this? And I asked him that. And by the way, Barack Obama had 6 years to fix Obamacare. At any point in time, Obama, in fact, in 2010, Obama had a supermajority. A supermajority. He could pass anything that he had wanted. Democrats could have passed any bill, any idea that they had, they could have passed in 2010 with their supermajority. They didn't fix this. They had 6 years under Obama. With a majority of Democrats, they could have fixed Obamacare anytime they wanted to. Under Joe Biden, there was another 4 years where Democrats had control, and under Biden-Harris, they could have fixed Obamacare anytime they wanted to. They had the power. They had the ability. They didn't have the desire because they didn't care. And I would say to you that Democrats want Obamacare to fail. Some of them, the Democratic Socialists, like Bernie Sanders, AOC, Ilhan Omar, Anna Presley, they want Obamacare to fail because they want to put in pure 100% socialist government, socialist medicine. They want Medicare for all. They want to turn your health care into the VA, or basically going to the DMV for your doctor visit. They want the government in charge of your health care, micromanaging your life and that of your children as well. Because that's what Medicare for all or universal health care, that's exactly what it actually is. It's government controlling your life. You have no more freedom. You have no more choice. The government decides whether you get this medication or a different one. It's the government that decides how you're going to be able to take care of your family, how you're going to take care of yourself. That's what they want, which gives them more control. Just like Zoran Mandami, he's talking about control. He's not talking about socialism where you get to make choices and you are empowered as an individual. It's more government, more government, more government. And that bigger and bigger and bigger government gets to control everything you do. Mandami isn't talking about you get to own a house. Mandami's talking about the government will own your house and you'll be happy. That's not the same thing. That's not freedom. And in healthcare, it's not the same thing. That's the government telling you the government controls your body. It's not your body. It's the government's body. And the government gets to do what it wants. That's what they're looking for from the DSA, from the Democratic Socialists, Bernie Sanders and AOC and the rest of them, Hakeem Jeffries included. They want government in control of your body, not you. And they're mad at Republicans for not letting them have the power over your life. That's just crazy to me. It doesn't make any sense. So Van Jones is out there, and so they're trying to sell you this idea. They're trying to tell you that this is a good thing, that this is working out great, but it's just not making any sense. And I think this also highlights this, really. You got Jon Stewart. Jon Stewart is angry. He's pissed off. He's screaming right now at Chuck Schumer because he recognizes what I recognize. And Jon Stewart is no fool. He's a smart man. We may very much disagree on our politics without doubt, but he's an intelligent individual. And he recognized Democrats got nothing. Unlike Van Jones, who's going to lie to you and say, well, no, this was a success and Democrats got, they got a lot of publicity and attention and we won an election. that they were going to win anyway. And I'll get to that. But you see Jon Stewart, and he's saying, you got nothing. You wasted 43 days. People got hungry. People weren't able to pay their bills for 43 days and got nothing because the Democrats were standing for nothing. This was only about posturing. It's about saying Orange Man bad. That's it. And it didn't work. They were trying to make everyone believe Orange Man bad, but they've been saying that for 11 years. Anyone who believes Orange Man bad already believes it. And anyone who doesn't believe that won't ever believe it. We've had 11 years, every day, every single day for the last decade, whether Donald Trump has been in office or not, we have been told that Donald Trump is the devil himself. MAGA is evil. We've heard this every day. If you aren't convinced at this point, you're not going to be. But they thought that they would suddenly change minds. And I love this, that Jon Stewart is furious, because we're 43 days. They received nothing. They didn't even get a guarantee of having a conversation about funding the Obamacare. He goes, I can't effing believe it, says Jon Stewart. He can't believe it. They caved on the shutdown, not even a full week removed from the best election night results that they've had in years. Well, let's think about those election night results. New Jersey is a blue state. Virginia is a blue state. New York City is a bluer than blue city inside a blue state. None of this was a surprise. No one was surprised that Virginia voted blue, or that New Jersey voted blue, or that New York City voted blue. What they were surprised by is that New York City voted socialist, which isn't the same thing. And it proved that Democrats were losing power. The fact that we even thought that it was possible for Democrats to lose in Virginia says Democrats are weak. That's a state they should easily have won in Virginia. That the AG was revealed to be a vicious individual who is willing to corrupt the law and kill children. And people voted for Jay Jones because Donald Trump's bad, Orange Man bad. Because somehow Donald Trump was on the ballot as Virginia Attorney General. Somehow he was there, and all the Democrats had to vote for Jay Jones, even though he wanted to kill children in front of their mother because of the mother's political preference, which most people would say that's pretty evil. And they had to vote for him because Donald Trump, which makes no sense. Makes no sense whatsoever. I mean, once you hear the words, once you put that out there and say, well, why did people vote for Jay Jones, who wants to kill children in front of their mother? Well, because Donald Trump. Yeah, but Donald Trump's president. He's not on the ballot in Virginia. Yeah, but Donald Trump. I gotta vote for Jay Jones because Donald Trump. That makes no sense. That makes no sense whatsoever. New Jersey. Well, Democrats won there too. Yeah, and there were 13 bomb threats at polling stations. And somehow a race that was expected to be a toss-up within 3 points, either person could have won, the Republican or the Democrat, and suddenly it became a 9-point swing for the Democrats. That seems unusual. That seems very strange when everyone was saying this is a tied race to suddenly a 9-point win. That didn't sound right. But a 9-point win, and there were 13 bomb threats. Something sounds odd there. Something sounds off there. But okay, again, New Jersey is a bluer than blue state, though. So not that surprising. Just the way they got there is a surprise. And again, we know about New York. Jon Stewart's upset. Look, and he points out either all 8 senators who voted to capitulate coincidentally are not up for re-election in 2026, or Chuck Schumer worked behind the scenes to give in to the Republicans while still pretending to protect the vulnerable Democrats, including himself. This is Jon Stewart saying it. Jon Stewart is hardly anyone's idea of Republican or right-leaning on anything. And yet he sees the same thing that I see, that he's telling us. And Van Jones told us, no, Jon Stewart's wrong. If I have to choose between Van Jones and Jon Stewart on a political ideology, a reason or an understanding of what's happening, I'd pick Jon Stewart every day. I think they're both wrong, but I would go with Jon Stewart. He actually knows what he's talking about. Van Jones, as is famously clipped, and you've seen it on many videos and many shows, he's not a politician. He knows nothing about politics by his own words. So that kind of tells you something right there. But, Democrats are trying to make the best of this situation as best as they can. They've lost. They failed. Chuck Schumer is in danger. But the AP came out and said, no, Chuck Schumer's okay. You only have people like Jon Stewart on one of the biggest Democratic voices on social media, and he's out there screaming, hey, we've got to get rid of Chuck Schumer. You've got Democrats in the House that are screaming that they got to get rid of Chuck Schumer. You've got various pundits, Democratic pundits, in all social media and various news organizations saying they got to get rid of Chuck Schumer. But the AP says, no, he's safe. He's okay. No one's upset with him. This is a lie. This is the Democrat hierarchy, the leadership, the DNC, trying to protect themselves from the Democratic Socialists, trying to protect themselves from the change that is so obvious that Nancy Pelosi said, I'm gone. Nancy Pelosi said, I have to retire because I have no more power. Going forward, she had no more power. So she's going to get out while the getting is good. Taking all of her millions, over $130 million that she made remember, $130 million that Nancy Pelosi made as a member of government, as an elected official, making $200,000 a year. And she turned $200,000 a year into $130 million in wealth. That's just for her, not including her husband, who's also got over $100 million in his wealth. It's remarkable. But they're trying to tell you that Chuck Schumer, he's okay. This is all safe. Don't worry. Nothing's changing. The same leadership have control. No, they don't. The wheels are off the bus. The short bus is coming down the road and the wheels are falling off the bus. Democrats have lost it. And now it's the Democratic Socialists who are trying to jump on, and they're saying, we're going to ride this thing right into the river. And that's Zoran Mandami. That's AOC. That's Omar Feta, who thinks that he's going to be better off, that they're trying it everywhere they can. But it's not going to work. I don't think it's going to work the way they think it is. So, yeah, I'm kind of upset with the Democrats here because for 43 days, the entire country suffered. And the only people who made money, the only people who got anything out of this, out of the last 43 days, out of this government shutdown, were people on social media. Podcasters like me, like Larry Sharp, like Hard Lens Media, like Van Jones or Jon Stewart. We're the only ones who got any benefit out of this. And that's not worth it. I would rather have not gotten the views. And by the way, I'm not making money off of that. I'm not getting 250,000 views every day. Sabby Sabs might. And I'm sure she got a lot of views talking about how great the socialist movement was in trying to, we're fighting against the MAGA and, we need more socialism. I'm sure she got a lot of views on that. But no one else in America got any benefit out of this. It's a sad day. It's been very sad for America, the shutdown. This shutdown for nothing. It was just a waste of time and hardship for Americans because Democrats don't care. I say that again. Democrats don't care. If they cared, they wouldn't have done this to you. But they did it to you. And they knew that there was nothing behind it. All right, so I beat up on Democrats for a while here, but I also promised that I'd talk about Elise Stefanik, who's a Republican, and talking about the 2026 elections, in particular the 2026 New York governor's race. Now, I have to be fully disclosed that I do support a candidate in the New York governor's race, and it's not Antonio Delgado, who was a miserable congressman for the New York 19th district and ran away from the people the second that he knew he would have competition in his election to remain in Congress. The moment he would actually have to defend and actually give a reason why he deserved to be a congressman, he ran away and became a lieutenant governor under Kathy Hochul. I don't support him. I don't support Kathy Hochul. Now, you know that I'm a Republican, a conservative Republican. I've run for Congress myself. You would say, well, Mike, you're obviously going to be supporting Elise Stefanik. Or maybe if you're really radical, you're going for Bruce Blakeman out of Nassau County. No, none of those. I actually support Larry Sharpe, which I've been very clear about, and I've given very clear reasons. The most simplest way I can say it, Larry Sharpe has solutions. Do I agree with every solution Larry Sharpe has? No. But I do agree that he has a solution, and Kathy Hochul, the Democrats, do not. The New York GOP do not. And Elise Stefanik does not. Now, I'll make this clear. That let me show you what I'm talking about here. I heard him.
Yes.
So this is Elise Stefanik's page, right? Elise Stefanik for governor. She finally got her website out. By the way, it took her 8 months to make the decision finally to say, I'm going to run. And she got her team, and she has an expert team. I've met Elise Stefanik before. She's very intelligent. She knows what she's doing. She's got a great team. Most of them are DC executives or experts. They've been in politics for decades. She has a very highly experienced team that make a lot of money. And they put together her website, and they failed. They made a website that I could have made in 5 minutes. You could have gone on to Wix, W-I-X, that website where it's all pre-made and they have garbage language on it. That's what she could have done. She did that. That's what they put together because she doesn't care. Because she doesn't think she's going to win. Because Zoran Mandami won. And people, conservatives, Republicans have been leaving New York. About depends on, we know for sure 1.2 million people have left New York since about 2013 under Andrew Cuomo. 1.2 million. They've taken hundreds of billions of dollars out of New York as they left, and they continue to leave under Kathy Hochul. Most of those people were conservatives and Republicans. That's why in the state of New York, it's a 3-to-1 Democrat to Republican ratio. Elise Stefanik knows that. And those Democrats have been trained orange man bad. And Elise is supported by Donald Trump. So she has an uphill battle all the way. So she finally gets her website up. This is the second version of her website, built by a team of people from Washington, D.C., experts who get paid over $250,000 a year, some of these experts. And these experts decided that this is Elise Stefanik's positions. These are her policies. This is why Elise is going to lose. And I tried to give advice, back in March and in April. I tried to reach out to Elise Stefanik's team. I tried to give them advice on how they could possibly try to win. They didn't listen. But this is what they did do. What did they do? They decided that they were going to, and by the way, you hear in the background, that's my dog. I'm going to take a moment in a second. But I want to leave this with you, that this is Elise Stefanik's priorities. Priorities are not policies. They're just ideas. They're suggestions. Elise, you couldn't get one policy. You had 8 months, $2 million. You had experts throughout DC, and you couldn't put up one policy? You gave us suggestions? Does that make sense to anyone? It makes no sense. It makes 0 sense. It makes less than 0 cents. Okay. Look, my dog is screaming at the moment, so bear with me. I'm going to put up a video. I was planning to go through the show until 9, but my dog is losing his mind here. So let me I need a half hour of video. Bear with me 1 second, folks. All right. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to come back to Elise in just 1 second, but my dog is losing his mind. I don't know why, because I walked him 15 minutes before I came on air, but he seems to be losing his mind. So I'm going to go and take him out, and I'm going to play this for a few moments until I get right back. Invade for a day so he could surrender, and the rest of the world will take pity on him and empathy, and because Orange Man bad, and they will give his country all of the food and help that they need because socialism doesn't work. He hopes that America will invade because it will help improve the quality of life for the citizens in that country, and it will help hold off an uprising that will get rid of the socialists. It'll take time, maybe another 5 years or so, but the socialists will be toppled because people can only starve.
Michael, what percentage do you believe of the Venezuelan people actually would support or are supporting the Trump administration on trying to get rid of Maduro? That's 30%, 40%. There's got to be people there in that country that say, you know what, we're kind of tired of all this bullshit.
Well, it's hard to say. I mean, you're talking about like 20%, maybe a little bit more of their country don't live in their country anymore. They've left to go throughout all of South America, Central America, and of course, yes, some of them also get to America. They're what, like the third or fourth largest number of if you're looking at countries of origin for illegal aliens, Venezuela's third or fourth on the list. It depends on who's counting and when, but somewhere they're in the top 5 countries entering into the United States illegally. Their people are running away. They've been running away since about 2019. So it's hard to say. Of the people left who are still in Venezuela and can't get to some other country, I would imagine that it's somewhere around 20, 30%. No. Standard rule of thumb is about 30%, 20 to 30% of any population of any country are dissatisfied with their leadership at any given moment. You look at elections. No one really counts the first 20% of an election because there's always 20% of people. You can always find 20% of people who vote.
Michael, what would you envision if, hypothetically, if this goes, and I don't want anybody to get killed, and I think invasion sometimes there'll be a lot of blowback on it. If the United States obviously invaded or did some surgical strikes and decapitated or got regime change or tried to get regime change quickly, some are saying that, Maduro, of course, could be a lot of bluster, that he says he can have about 600,000 militiamen ready to meet the American troops when they landed. Now, again, what do you see that be happening? And I hate to say this, but it's like I'm sure the U.S. has practiced this, like when we've done some Middle East operations. I'm sure that the United States will not go in and be bombing Venezuelan oil facilities, particularly if there is regime change and that new regime is friendly to the United States.
Well, we would most likely see kind of a Delta Force or a SEALs team go in and decapitate the head of the government, assassinate Maduro,
Arrest them?
No, assassinate, not arrest, assassinate. Him, some of his key generals, a couple of the top dignitaries, wipe them out. That would be the easiest way to topple the government and the least bloody. Now, I was laughing, 650,000 militiamen in Venezuela is not a fighting army. That's rabble. You might as well just say he has 600,000 civilians that are willing to fight.
They're just putting a gun in their hands. They're just putting an AK in their hands.
Mind you, these people are not well trained because if you gave them guns, they'd use it against the government. So
yes,
there's not a lot of people who are allowed to have firearms or to train with firearms or get learning about tactics because they would topple the government. But I'm sure he could throw, through force or bribery, he could throw tens of thousands of people in front of U.S. troops, using them as a shield. And much like what we saw in the Iraq War, those people will give up the instant that they see an American troop. They don't want to fight. They can't fight. They don't want to die. They'll just give up. We saw that in Operation Desert Storm. Iraqis would see us and go, drop their guns.
Michael, let me ask you this. Let me ask you this, and I kind of feeling I know what your answer is going to be. I understand that this drug scourge, the fentanyl and the possible CCP connection with Maduro. What level should we go to? What lengths should we go to put an end to this? And do you think that there'll be a rise in anti-Americanism in that part of the world if we go in and we do end up invading? Or do you see us not occupying, just going in, knocking them out, like you said, and just leaving? Is there any potential blowback, is what I'm asking you, for an operation like this?
So there's what I would like, and then there's what's going to happen. Let me clarify the two. I do not believe that the United States should be involved in any conflict where we do not take what we win. If one American soldier puts their foot on the ground on foreign soil, and that foreign soil is being contested, someone's going to shoot or fight for that land. If we win, and we would win, we own it. Period. Full stop. I don't care if it's colonialism. I don't care. Screw that. If an American could possibly bleed, it is ours if we win. Point blank, no other question. And therefore, if we go into Venezuela, we take over Venezuela. It becomes a commonwealth of the United States, much like Puerto Rico or the Virgin Islands or Samoa. And then we can build infrastructure, same thing that we should have done in Iraq, same thing we should have done in Afghanistan. We build the infrastructure of the country. We build hospitals, schools. We give them the Constitution to live under and the dollar to be able to buy things with. So they have some kind of stability. They have some kind of future. They have an education, a higher quality of life for their kids. We bring in modern medicine, which the socialists have completely failed at.
Yeah.
That's why measles, mumps, and rubella, the reason why there's cases in the United States, it's Venezuelans who since 2018 left Venezuela and have been bringing measles, mumps, and rubella to countries throughout all of South America, all through Central America, and into the United States. By the way, that's a determination from 2018 by the World Health Organization. It's not me just guessing.
Michael,
at
some point, Michael, wasn't Venezuela a profitable country, a country that was doing well?
Yes.
And then Chavez came on the scene and gutted it?
Yes, it was actually one of the most, it was the richest country in South America and Central America. Yeah.
And Chavez and then Maduro And now where we are
Brought in
now,
socialism, and socialism does what socialism.
and wasn't there a big thing with hyperinflation for many years? It's probably still going on, right?
Still going on. Still have hyperinflation because socialism does what it always does. It fails. And when it fails, people's lives are destroyed. So I explained what I would like to see happen. We go in, take over the country, we rebuild the country, and in 2 generations, they get to vote to either be an independent country, a state, or remain a commonwealth, just like Puerto Rico and all the other commonwealths that we have. That would be good for the U.S. economy. It would be good for the people of Venezuela. But the world will complain and be like, oh, it's colonialism, blah, blah, racism, whatever. Who cares? Stupid. I don't care. But what will probably happen is, like I said, a SEAL team or a Delta Force, something of that nature, would go in, take out Maduro, force the country to go into a new set of elections. Probably a puppet government would win with support from the United States and other Western nations. That means England, that means Germany, that means France, it means Spain. Other first world and second world nations would be supporting this because it adds to stability. It reduces the amount of terrorism. It reduces the amount of illegal drugs. So we would get, it's not just the United States that would be supporting this. Mexico would support this to get in some form of quasi-puppet government to reorganize the nation. There'll be infighting because since it isn't a genuine public, the citizens of Venezuela, since they didn't bring this forward, it's not their revolution. They're going to contest it, no matter who it is, no matter how successful it is. There will be a civil war, and there will be fighting, which will spill over to other nations, either refugees and or fighting from guerrillas and terrorist organizations. And it'll be a drain on U.S. resources, as well as some of our allies in Europe, in Central America, Mexico. It'll drain resources to fund one side of the fighting, one side or the other.
Michael, the other competing reasons would be that if we don't take action, whether for what's going on with the drug interdiction, that China and Russia are going to be establishing beachheads in Venezuela. I'm sure they obviously the Trump administration is saying that the fentanyl whatever is being coordinated with China and Venezuela and making its way up here and through the cartels as well. So it's for, I guess, for geopolitical reasons, this is on our plate and we have to address it fairly soon.
Yes. Yes. Fentanyl, the majority of fentanyl is coming from, it's originating in China. And China is using the distribution channels that already exist. That's the drug cartels to bring it into America. It's good for China. It destabilizes America. It drains our resources, and they have deniability.
I got you. Now, Michael, listen, I forgot to bring this when we were back on our New York situation.
Sure.
And we want to talk a little bit about the breaking news just before you and I came on the air, which is former Congressman George Santos having his sentence commuted. I didn't know he was doing 7 years, but President Trump commuted his sentence. I'm watching CNN live. They're going out of their minds about it. What brought about this? Was it kind of did you think they went too far as charging him, one, and the fact that the GOP really quickly moved to expel him from Congress? And I remember that made our little, as far as many congressmen as we had in the majority, it made it smaller and smaller. What's behind, you think, President Trump getting just commuting his sentence? I mean, Santos is probably elated. You know what I mean?
One, it's a stunt. Two, it's a distraction. Three, he was railroaded. See, the left, yes, George Santos is a con man. That's pretty well established. Except he didn't con people to vote for him. He was legally and correctly elected. Now, there's nothing that says a criminal cannot be elected to Congress. And I don't just mean, well, look at some of the people we got in there, like Chuck Schumer or something.
Yeah.
Or Charles Rangel or Barney Frank. No, we're literally talking about you can be a convicted or unconvicted criminal and you can be elected to Congress. That is allowed. Santos, his crimes were not about his election. When he got into office, whether you think he was doing a good job or a bad job, he was in there. I think they overextended, overreached the powers of Congress to remove him in the way they did, because he didn't violate the terms of being a congressman. So it was unfair. Then he got convicted on some of his previous crimes. Fantastic. That's the way the system's supposed to work. He committed a crime. He was found guilty of those crimes. He would have to serve. Then you remove him from office. But before that, he is presumed innocent. That is our legal system. You don't like him because he's a Republican and he won, and Democrats thought they were going to win. So it's one less seat for them, one more for Republicans. That pissed them off. Not only is this guy a cheat, but he's also adding to Republican power. Although, let's be honest, when he got in there, he wasn't really a Republican or a Democrat. He was there for himself.
Yeah.
He was there to enrich and empower himself, not Republicans, not Democrats. But, they're going to push the Republican thing because it sells better than saying, no, he's a swindler and he's out there for himself. And it makes it easier for their base to take credit for this. Well, what they took credit for was abusing the system. And at the root of it is, should he have gotten the full sentence? No, because he was being punished for successfully working through the loopholes in the legal system, the election system, and many of the politicians were embarrassed. Guess what? You get embarrassed. That's not illegal. He was being punished for the wrong thing and being punished in excess. I don't think that he's a great
Michael,
guy.
when I see wire fraud and identity theft, and I know you didn't say this, but was the identity theft part of he lied about who he was and that's how he got elected into Congress? Where's the identity theft thing come in at?
No, that was prior to him running for office, as I recall. It wasn't. He lied about some of the things he had done.
Okay,
but there's I can think of a dozen current sitting members of Congress that have lied about what they've done. That's not unusual. They make up stuff all the time. And we've seen people misremember facts about where they were, what they did. I mean, AOC, I was in the Capitol. No, you weren't. No, you weren't. You're lying. It's bald-faced proven fact. You lied. But yet they don't get punished for that. So again, it is the establishment protecting establishment, keeping everyone else out. And this guy, Santos, after he was convicted, I would have agreed with them, keep him out. Before he got convicted, no, now you're abusing your power. There's the difference.
Right. You wonder, Michael, you wonder if Santos had somebody really lobbying the Trump administration hard for this, commutation of a sentence. You wonder, how did this all come about? And I know, we don't know because it just broke a couple hours ago, but it'd be interesting to find out. I don't know if you mentioned, you said it might have been some type of a diversion or done for optics. It's weird.
Mm-hmm. I think at the root of it, besides the fact that his rights were abused to an extent, because he's being used as a scapegoat, but he's also being used as a distraction.
Yes.
If you talk about Santos, you're not talking about government shutdown for 18 days. If you're talking about Santos, you're not talking about, from the Democrats' point of view, well, now I don't have to talk about Trump has successfully garnered peace with Hamas and Israel. He did what he promised. Oh, it wasn't even 24 hours. Do you care? There's more peace in the world than before he did it. So it doesn't matter. And by the way, Democrats couldn't get it done. Progressives couldn't get it done. Every other country on the face of the earth couldn't get to this point now. So you don't have to, it took more than 24 hours. Who cares? It got done. And he was the only one who could get it done. And everyone on the left side that tried failed. Every other country that tried failed. He's the only one who got it done. So for the left, they want Santos. It's good for them. It's good for Republicans. We're not talking about the government shutdown. Not that I think Republicans are really suffering on that. I think most people are blaming Democrats overall. But again, it is a distraction from everything negative happening in the country.
No, I agree with you, Michael. Listen, we'll move on. I did want to get that in there so the listeners and the viewers could know that we're on top of things.
Yeah.
Now, Michael, I want to move on to.
By the way, it wasn't a pardon; it's a commutation. So the difference there: pardon means you were never guilty in the first place, and you will hear the left misstate that, say he was pardoned. No, he had his sentence commuted, which means I don't have to serve the rest of the time.
Well, I know, Michael, I know I'm using the word commutes. I'm seeing it here, commutes, prison sentence. But you're right. The distinction is important. The distinction, words matter. Words matter. Now, I want to move on. What looks like it happened. I did watch in the White House today with Zelensky arriving to meet with Trump to talk about various things as far as the conflict is doing, and
Tomahawks.
The whole big issue with tomahawks. And I think Zelensky was probably pissed, Michael, when he walked in knowing that Trump spoke for 2.5 hours with Putin yesterday. That must have concerned Zelensky a lot. But I am glad that, according to Zelensky and the White House, that as far as giving Ukraine access to these tomahawks could really be, as far as threat escalation and whatnot, the escalation, the ladder, as they say, could be a very dangerous thing. And I'll be honest with you, I was a little surprised that it was even introduced or talked about a week or two ago. But anyway, Zelensky left with his tail between his legs after Trump probably gave him, a real speech. And, I was saying this on the show last night, what should President Trump say to Zelensky? He should say to him, Zelensky, have some reasonable expectations here. You're not going to get everything back. That's just not going to happen. And introducing Tomahawk weapons, and think about it, Michael, they're 1.6 million each. You're going to have more or less a NATO or American crew, at least initially. You're going to need a lot of assistance from the U.S. military. Do we really want to get in deeper and deeper and deeper? I know we're deep in this Ukrainian-Russian thing, but I think at this point we should think about extracting ourselves, albeit probably slowly, because this has been catastrophic. I know you and I have discussed this over the last couple of months, the past year, about how catastrophic it has been for the Ukrainian people and maybe to a lesser extent the Russian people, but they've obviously suffered a lot of casualties too. But it's the Ukrainian military and their civilian population that has borne the brunt of this. So I'd like to see something done. We're moving in the right direction, certainly before Christmas. But my question to Michael Voss is, do you see any substantial movement, let's say, for example, next week in Hungary, where Putin and Trump are going to meet? Do you see any breaking news coming out, Michael, or is this going to be a very slow process?
What the conversation with Zelensky today has no impact on what Trump and Putin are going to say next week. Never was. And part of the reason why Zelensky is upset that Trump was speaking to Putin for 2.5 hours the day before he showed up is because he's not important. Because he's not critical to the peace deal. Because Ukraine is losing. And I know there's a lot of people who are upset to hear that, and they've been upset to hear that. This is a war of attrition. Russia can outlast Ukraine. It's just pure math. It is empirical. And Russia knows it. So does the Ukraine. So does every other country in the world. The thing that holds off this war from becoming worse is that the United States has been so vehemently supporting Ukraine their war effort. We're giving them the ammunition, the weapons, the training, some personnel, and a lot of the weapons. The Tomahawk. Hey, I'm back already. Sorry I had to step away. My puppy, who he's 14, and I don't know, it's change of weather or whatever. So he had a different opinion of things. But anyway, so I was trying to make a point about Elise Stefanik. And here's the thing. Elise is too smart for this. The team of people that Elise Stefanik has working with her on her governor run. And again, this is her website. This is her page to let you know why you should vote for Elise Stefanik in 2026 for New York State. And she's going to make it affordable and safe, which is something that's generic. That's not really anything impressive. I mean, that's what Hochul is saying. That's what Mondami is saying. That's what every elected official has said, that they want to make their whatever they're running for affordable and safe. It's been the same thing everyone said for the last 20, 25 years. That's a problem. That in and of itself is a problem, that she has no definitive direction she wants to go into. But with all of the people that she has, the team of people she has, the fact that she's an intelligent woman in and of herself, that she has no policies, not one policy of what she expects to do if she wins. At least Stefanik doesn't expect to win. I don't even know that she's trying to win anymore. I think after what she saw happen in New York City, after what the New York GOP did to Curtis Sliwa, how all of the Republicans in New York State, the leadership, how they turned on Curtis Sliwa to support Andrew Cuomo, the guy who started the exodus out of New York, I mean, the major one, that we've lost about 1 million people, 1.2 million people, most of them conservatives and Republicans, have left the state because of Andrew Cuomo, and they were going to support that guy, the guy who killed 16,000 citizens, the same guy who decided to create the New York SAFE Act and just try and destroy the Second Amendment. And the GOP were willing to support that guy over the Republican who won the primary. She saw that, and she has to say to herself, this isn't a serious state. The GOP are not putting up a serious fight on a statewide level. And so she's not putting in 100%. This explains why she's been back and forth for the last 8 months, waffling on if she would run or if she wouldn't. I mean, she spent 8 months, got 45 endorsements, got $2 million on day one, and she couldn't come up with one policy. And again, when you say these are my priorities, a priority is not a policy. They're not the same thing, not even close. You can have any priority you want, but what's your policy? What are you actually going to do? Her priority is to cut taxes. So is every Republican, every libertarian, every conservative. That's not new. Plus, that's not a policy. How are you going to cut taxes? And what taxes? Are you talking corporate taxes, individual taxes, both? How much are you looking to cut them? That's a policy. What she has is a gimmick. It's a statement. It means nothing. She says, lowering energy and utility costs. Democrats are saying that right now. Everyone wants to lower the utility costs. That's not new. That's not specific. How are you going to cut the utility costs? Are you going to support renewable energy, which doesn't work? We've seen that under the Democrats, under Hochul. Andrew Cuomo and Hochul promised that if we picked up wind energy and solar, that would reduce the cost of energy in New York State. The reality is the exact opposite of that, that it's caused costs to go up because windmills don't work very well in a New York winter. And solar panels break down on a regular basis. and they don't draw enough energy to actually keep up with the pace needed by New York State. So they made the promise, but it didn't work. Does this mean when you say you're going to lower the cost of energy and cut utility costs by expanding energy independence, does that mean we're going to build nuclear power plants? Is that what you're saying, Elise? Because it might. Then again, it may not mean that. It could mean nothing whatsoever. She's being very ambiguous because she doesn't have a policy. She has a slogan, a campaign slogan. Not the same thing, not worth voting for. She has a bring fiscal sanity to Albany. Every Republican ever has said that. And yet New York State is fiscally irresponsible. We have a massive debt. Our debt is bigger than some nations' GDP. So telling me you want to bring sanity, does that mean that you're going to cut taxes, that you're going to get rid of you're going to deregulate, get rid of all the redundant regulations we have, going to get rid of DEI? What does that mean? Bring fiscal sanity. What does that mean? Because what you said is nothing. And that's not a policy. It doesn't tell me what you're going to do. Lower the prices and cost of living. How? Everyone wants the cost of living to go down. Everyone wants that. Everyone wants the prices to go down. The rent's too damn high. We know that. We've had guys who've run for governor on that idea as well. No one disputes that. The question is, how are you going to do that? And she doesn't tell us. This is her website. This is her sales pitch to you and me to why we should be voting for Elise Stefanik, why we should be donating our hard-earned money to her campaign. She's not being serious. This is not serious. Elise is better than this. She's a far better politician than this, and she knows this is not serious. But this is what she put out to the public? Seriously? And eventually, she may change this. Eventually, she may actually give us policies. But the thing is, you had 8 months to tell us the policies. You can't tell me you couldn't think of one policy that you wanted to stand on. It could be abortion. It could be nuclear power. It could have been, I don't know, bringing back businesses by dropping corporate taxes. It could be a lot of things. Could be getting rid of bail reform. These are all Republican ideas. These are things that Republicans in other states are doing. You could be standing on any of those issues, Elise. You're not. This is not a serious campaign. She is not serious about running for New York governor. She'll go through the motions. She's going to get the nomination. She knows it. She's going to raise a couple more $1 million. She'll probably get another $4 to $10 million to run. And she'll go through all the motions. She's not going to win. Not with this attitude. This tells me that she doesn't care. This, instead of having policies and telling me about her suggestions, that tells me she's not taking this seriously. And that's either because she never thought she was going to win, because too many Republicans and conservatives have abandoned New York, because that's what Andrew Cuomo and Kathy Hochul asked. They asked for this. They said, take your business and leave. You're a conservative. You're a Republican. Leave. And we did. And that has sealed the fate of New York. And either that's what Elise believes, that it's too late, or it's the fact that she saw the GOP throw Curtis Sliwa under a bus and she doesn't trust them. She doesn't think they're going to back her. She doesn't believe that they actually want to win. So why should she fight to win if she's not going to get the support of the New York GOP? I can't tell you that she's wrong. But I thought that was very interesting and very important. And I know there's a bunch of Republicans who are watching this right now that are pissed off at me because how dare you say the Republican candidate can't win when they're acting like this? She can't win. This isn't someone who's 110% committed to winning. And Elise, if you think I am wrong, I will put you on this program. I will give you 12 hours to tell me how I am wrong, to show me the passion that you have for this race, to show me the policies that you have that will improve New York State. I'm more than happy to give you all the time. We've met, we've talked. I don't think you're a bad person. I don't think that you're unintelligent. I think you're quite capable. You're better than this. I'm happy to hear your voice. But I can't support what she's putting up on this screen with an honest face and tell you as a Republican, as someone who has been doing this for 20 years, that I think that is enough, that's good enough for you to accept and to vote for. I can't. I support Larry Sharpe. He's got policies. He has policies. He has solutions. Do I agree with all of them? No. But there's something I can work with there. I can't work with a suggestion. That's not a policy. I can't improve a suggestion. We're going to lower the cost of energy. Great. Everyone wants that. I can't fix that. I can't help you with that. I can't support that because that doesn't tell me what's going to happen. That doesn't tell me what you're doing. Everyone wants it. Republicans, socialists, everyone wants it. You're not giving me anything, which tells me you're not serious. At least this is the way I take it. And I'm sure I have Republicans who watch the channel who are pissed off at me. So be it. I am a fair person. My critiques go against the left and the right when either one is doing something stupid or it doesn't make sense or it's not beneficial to the public. I call them out. I call out Elise, not because she's some evil person, but because she isn't giving 110% to the 2026 governor's race. And you know what? That's not good enough. Therefore, I have the one candidate that is giving 110%. That's Larry Sharpe. Let me go on, because here's something that you probably haven't heard about, and I think it's kind of important. Chicago, the raids in Chicago, 3,000, over, was that 2 months now? In 2 months, they've been able to get 3,000 illegal aliens arrested. 3,000. That's huge. Mass deportations. The very thing that Democrats told us they could not happen, could not be done. We couldn't mass deport these illegal aliens. 3,000 in 2 months. Because we actually tried to enforce the law. Because we were actually doing what the law says we should have always been doing. The moment we stopped ignoring Chicago as a sanctuary city and said, no, the law applies to you just like everyone else, and illegal aliens are a danger to communities, whether they're in Chicago or they're in New York or they're in Kansas, it's the same thing. And those illegal aliens do not have a right to be in America. They do not deserve your taxpayer dollar, my taxpayer dollar. They deserve to be deported. And 3,000 were arrested. And you were told it couldn't happen, that it wasn't possible. And the left have been fighting tooth and nail for the criminals. The media doesn't like to word it that way. They try to find nicer ways to say it. But the left, people like Kat Abu, are fighting, literally getting into fights with ICE agents, trying to stop cars, trying to disable law enforcement vehicles so that illegal aliens can continue to break the law in our country and get paid by your tax dollars. That's what Kat Abu, who's running for Congress in the 9th District, that's what she's fighting for. That's what Mayor Brandon Johnson is fighting for. That's what J.B. Pritzker, the governor of Illinois, and who hopes to be one of the nominees for the Democratic 2028 Democratic presidential race, they are fighting tooth and nail for the illegal alien, not you. That's devastating because we know, as much as they want to say Orange Man bad, as much as they want to say MAGA is evil, America First is bad, 77 million people voted for mass deportations. They're getting them. The only thing is stopping us are the left protesting and trying to free illegal aliens. That is the stark difference that we are at in this nation at this time. It is absolute. It is a line in the sand, and the left they're way on the left of that line, and the rest of us are standing at the line saying, where do we go? We can follow the law, which means we continue to mass deport, or we can jump over the line and try and catch up to the left who are saying more illegal aliens. Let's take more of your tax money. Let's take more of your rights and privileges and give it to people who don't belong in our country. So this is what Chicago's been fighting about. They've been fighting to keep 3,000. If only 1% of those 3,000 people are, let's see, 10%. Yeah. What is that? That's 30 hardened violent criminals. That's too much. And we know it's way higher. How many of those people were gangbangers? How many of those people were, whether it be MS-13 or Tren de Aragua or any other of 100 illegal gangs in America, gangs of illegal aliens preying on American citizens? How many of them were just robbing people, stealing on the streets, selling drugs, selling guns, selling fentanyl to our kids who are overdosing, over 100,000 of them? Why are Democrats fighting for this? I don't understand. It doesn't make sense to me. It doesn't make sense. But they are fighting. I mean, they are fighting hard. And the news media is trying to make it seem like it's not happening. So, I mean, you may have seen this earlier today. UC Berkeley, yesterday, UC Berkeley, Antifa decided to storm Berkeley because they didn't like people speaking. Berkeley College, one of the Ivy League equivalents, one of the bastions of free speech and independent thought, we believed. That's what we were told. That's what we grew up thinking was the truth. That Berkeley, you go to Berkeley and you could speak your mind. You could have a conversation, talk about the ideas. And Antifa showed up outside. They're not part of this. And they're beating people up. They're getting into bloody fights with someone because he was selling a shirt that's red and said freedom. This is Antifa. This is what we're facing. This is what people like Zohran Mandami and Gavin Newsom and AOC and Ilhan Omar and Jasmine Crockett, this is what they support. This is what they want. They want to beat up people. Look at this guy, how bloody he is. They want to attack you because you want freedom. That you're willing to wear a shirt that says freedom and it just happens to be red. How dare you do that? You can't have an idea that they haven't approved of. That's what Antifa is about. Antifa is the strong arm of the progressive movement. They're the guys who come in. They're the thugs that are there to coerce you into compliance. You will obey what Antifa and what the progressives say, or they will beat you down. They will beat you bloody just because you said something that they don't like, something that wasn't already approved for you to hear and for you to say. How dare you have a different thought? And this is what they look at what they did. Look at them as they're fighting with police officers who the only thing the police at UC Berkeley were doing was saying, we're not going to let you burn down UC Berkeley. People are having a conversation inside. You don't like the conversation? You didn't go inside. Fine. But you don't get the right to attack people. You don't get the right to attack the building, to try and burn it down, to destroy it, to vandalize it. You don't get that right. And Antifa is pissed off. Mind you, this is the same Antifa that the Democrats tell you. People like Jerry Nadler and Nancy Pelosi, Chuck Schumer, they tell you it doesn't exist. Antifa doesn't exist. There's no violence from the left. Remember how they were telling us after Charlie Kirk 2 months ago? Charlie Kirk was killed, assassinated by a leftist, indoctrinated by leftist ideology in his school within 2 years at college. And they're telling us, no, but the left isn't violent. This is violence. And they don't count this. This will never go down. This won't be down as this was a violent protest of the left against the right. They won't count this. They'll say, oh, well, no, this was an altercation. There were a couple people, a disturbance of the peace. But it wasn't, this wasn't leftist violence. That looks pretty violent to me. And that's a leftist who did it. That's violent to me. I don't know. Maybe others will think it's something else, but I think that's leftist violence that they say doesn't exist. They look at you and they say, no, that's not true. Look at this. Now, this is a peaceful protest. I have no problem with that. And you can read in the reports here. This is from the Cal Matters, a left-leaning organization. Fine. And in their reporting, with reporters on the scene, they say there were outside agitators, Antifa. They won't even give them the name. They're outside agitators. We don't know where they possibly could have come from. I mean, it's not like California isn't part of the progressive capital of the United States. Seattle and Portland have huge numbers of Antifa that control their cities. You're telling me you don't know who these people are? They're part of your community. And they went to this college on purpose and they advertise. And you mean to tell me you have no idea they're outside agitators? We have no idea who these people could be. How about this? They're leftists. They're progressive. They're socialists. That's who they are. And they're mad because there's people at UC Berkeley who are talking about Charlie Kirk and saying he wasn't the most evil person that ever existed. That Charlie Kirk just wanted to have a conversation. And they're having a conversation in his memory 2 months after he was assassinated. And outside these doors, these are leftists who are doing nothing but violence. And you can go and read through this, and I'll leave the link. There's a couple of police are arresting people because they're getting into fights outside the auditorium. In fact, at 8:45, one of the students leaving the event says, quote, "These people can't be negotiated with," said a student, and even attendee Matthew Edgar of the protesters outside. "They would celebrate if I died. It's nonsensical. I'm going to walk out of here and I'll have virtually no friends coming out of Berkeley." Think about that. That's coercion. This guy went to Berkeley, and because he went to an event where someone was talking about their opinion, Antifa and the other students at Berkeley will ostracize that student, if not cheer on his death. That's terrifying to me. And that's what it's supposed to be. It's supposed to be terrifying. That's why Antifa is a terrorist organization. These are terror tactics. And the left will not call them out. They say this doesn't exist. I want you to remember this because the mainstream news media has downplayed this. They're glossing over it. They're talking about anything. They're saying Orange Man bad. Did you know Orange Man bad? Orange Man had an email. Did you hear about the orange email? They want to talk. Oh, no, the election was fantastic. Democrats are in total control, except when they gave up and the country, they stopped shutting down the government and got nothing for it. Oh, they skipped past that. They're going to gloss over this story because there's no leftist violence because they won't tell you about it, because they won't talk about it. They don't discuss it. There's two sentences in this entire revisioning of the events. There's no picture that shows the violence that happened, even though there were reporters on scene, because we know this is the reporting as they go from 4:30, 5:30, and they know that there was violence. Here it is right here. This is from the 4:30 reporting. A fight broke out between two men, one of whom was selling Freedom shirts. Their altercation subsequent arrest briefly shut down the street. You were there as a reporter. You saw the fight. She has a cell phone because you're going to Berkeley. You're working for Cal Matters. You have the capability. You have a cell phone. There is no doubt. And that cell phone has the ability to take video and pictures. Not one of those videos, not one of those pictures were put onto here to show the violence that happened. No, you'll show that this is the peaceful aspect of it. You won't show the violence because they want to bias. This wasn't a violent protest. They're lying to you. They're lying to your face because they don't expect that you're going to go through more than about half the article to find the one sentence that said, oh yeah, there was violence. But don't worry about that. That's not really important. They were standing outside. It was mostly peaceful. They were chanting and, but there was an altercation. An altercation means a fight. There was a beat down that was going on, and police had to arrest someone because people were getting beaten bloody. It's an altercation. No. I've seen bar fights that aren't as bloody as that. It's really sad. It's really, really sad what we are seeing happening and what is being excused. I'll give you another example of when the left is excusing violence because they just don't want you to think about it, because it's all about power. They don't care about you being safe. They don't care if you're safe at UC Berkeley or any of the other colleges. They don't care about you being safe. The left doesn't care about you being safe here. An illegal alien who happened to be from Mexico, he was the guy. Remember when in the BBC and most of the news media were saying, well, they're not sure that there was actually a shooting that in Chicago where they had 3,000 arrests, that mass deportation is happening, that some guy, remember, we talked about it on Sunday in the Sunday live stream, and there was somebody came on by in a car and tried to drive by shoot ICE agents, law enforcement, doing their job, which is enforcing immigration law, mass deporting people. And the news media said, well, that probably didn't happen. The border agents, they were just making it up. Law enforcement made it up. They didn't get shot. That's not true. The violence doesn't exist. Yeah, that's why an illegal alien got arrested for it. A Mexican illegal alien got arrested for trying to do a drive-by shooting, and the left said, there's no violence. It didn't happen. Just like there was no fighting over at UC Berkeley. It was completely peaceful. Another mostly peaceful event. mass deportation, all the protests, that's mostly peaceful, except for the actual violence that they don't want to talk about. And they don't count that. That doesn't count. That's something completely different. It just happens to be an illegal Mexican who shot at ICE agents who were deporting people at the time. Yeah, that's just coincidence. Who could have imagined that? It makes no sense to me, folks. It makes no sense to me that these things are allowed to happen in our nation, and that the news media are going to try and tell you that it's not a big deal, that it's not important. And these stories are made to be minimized. This is Channel 5 Chicago, which I believe is an NBC station. Arrest made after DHS said shots were fired at federal agents. In a post on X on Monday, DHS announced that an undocumented immigrant, I love how they say that. See, again, they're trying to water it down. It was an undocumented immigrant. No, it was an illegal alien. The documents that illegal alien doesn't have is authorization to be in America, period. That is illegal. They are not from America. They are aliens. The legal term is illegal alien, but they want it to sound nice. They want you to think it isn't a big deal. I love it. And he says the undocumented immigrant from Mexico. Why is that country important? I don't know. Because, oh, well, you're racist. That's why they put in Mexico. Because they didn't need to put in where they're from. No one cares where they're from. They're an illegal alien. Full stop. Done. I don't care where they're from. They shouldn't be here. Send them back to wherever they were. But they tell us Mexico so that they can say, well, see, you're just being racist. You're racist against brown people. I am a brown person. So what are you telling me? He's from Mexico. Don't care. He's from another country and he should never have been here. He should never have shot at that ICE agent. He shouldn't have had the capability to endanger, because that bullet, once he fired and it missed the ICE agents, it could have gone and hit anyone. Could have hit your grandmother. But they want you to not think about that. Look at this. The illegal alien from Mexico was arrested in connection with a shooting targeting Border Patrol agents in Chicago. They're trying to make it seem like it's not real, that this didn't actually happen, that no one was in danger. They're trying to minimize this. You know, you racist. You're racist for thinking that this guy from Mexico shot at ICE agents. But they've done that. They did that in California. They did that in Seattle. They've been doing this. Or excuse me, Portland, not Seattle, Portland. So, yeah, we do expect this. We are seeing this happen. But they want to lie to you. They want to lie to your face. It's really upsetting. And by the way, they're not just telling you that these things don't exist. They're trying to erase them from history. They're trying to erase them from the law. According to ABC News, over 600 illegal aliens out of the 3,000 that are successfully being deported from America, just like you were promised would happen, just like what you were told and what you voted for. 77 million people voted for that. There's a judge right now, Democrat judge, who's saying, oh, no, 600 of those illegal aliens, they have to stay in America. This is what the left is fighting for. 600 of those 3,000, that's 1/5, so that's about 20% of these illegal aliens have to stay in America, per this judge. It's not because they're not illegal aliens. They are. They just don't want them to be deported. They said, oh, well, you arrested them without a warrant. They're illegal aliens. They are known wanted criminals. Yeah, but you have to have a warrant at the moment that you arrest them. You can't arrest them without that warrant unless they committed an extra crime, unless they're not just criminals, but they have to be violent criminals. They have to do something beyond just break immigration law entering into the United States. No. They have to commit another crime. They got to rob your granny. They got to sell some drugs, sell some guns. They got to try and steal from you. Then you can arrest them. Why? Oh, well, then they've committed a crime. No. Then they've committed another crime. And they go into this in the ABC's reporting, and they're talking about, well, they have to have a crime. No, the judge said this. Well, they have to commit a crime for you to be able to arrest them without a warrant. They already committed a crime. That's why they're getting arrested. No, but they have to do more crimes. They've already committed a crime. Hold them accountable for the crime they've actually done. No, but they have to do more crimes. No. Why are we going to leave them? 600 of these criminals are going to be released back onto the streets of America, and then they can commit more crime? And we're just going to wait until they do another crime before we can consider actually deporting them? Does that make sense to anyone? That's stupid. But ABC's like, but it's okay because, they should be released and they should be allowed to be in America. Why? This is so crazy to me. Look, by the way, I should have mentioned this a little bit earlier. I was picking on Elise Stefanik because she's not serious about her campaign. Well, Kathy Hochul is just as bad. Kathy Hochul is laying low. If you're wondering, where's Kathy Hochul? Why hasn't she said anything? What's she been up to? She's trying to avoid this story, which should be major news, just like with Eric Swalwell. Congressman Eric Swalwell was sleeping with a Chinese spy while he was on the Intelligence Committee, and God only knows what he told her during pillow talk. And he got away with it. Well, Kathy Hochul, just like Andrew Cuomo, had this woman on the right here with long hair, the red shirt. She's a Chinese spy, allegedly. She's a Chinese spy, allegedly. And her boyfriend, husband here, he's a spy too, allegedly. And they're on trial right now for being part of the Democratic Party, being part of Kathy Hochul's administration and Andrew Cuomo's administration. They have been a decade allegedly spying for China for a decade in the office of the governor of New York. So much so, so well connected that when Andrew Cuomo left, they got an upgrade. They got a higher position under Kathy Hochul. Now you can understand why you might not want why Kathy Hochul might not want this news story to go out. I love it. They say it's ex-New York governor's aide. They're blaming this on Andrew Cuomo. Kathy Hochul, as governor, kept them in her part of her administration. You can't blame this. This isn't because of Andrew Cuomo. Kathy Hochul, you can say Andrew Cuomo initially hired them and they were spying for China, allegedly, in the Cuomo administration. Okay. But then Cuomo resigned. His people were replaced. Kathy Hochul came in as as governor, and gave them a more important position. She gave them a raise. She gave them more information, more power as spies in her administration. So this should read New York governor's aide, not ex-governor. They're protecting Kathy Hochul. This is how the news media lied to you. This is why people don't understand what's happening in our government, why we are seeing such failures happen. The news media is protecting Kathy Hochul. This wasn't Cuomo's fault. It was Kathy Hochul's fault. The reason why these alleged spies are under arrest is because they were working for Kathy Hochul and they got caught. That's it. It's that simple. But the news media won't tell you that. They don't want you to tell you that. They want you to think that Kathy Hochul did nothing wrong and that she's brilliant and she's just a victim. And Andrew Cuomo, who's already a bad guy, is even more of a bad guy. And don't think about Stefanik, Elise Stefanik. Don't think about Larry Sharp. You can only vote Democrat. And don't worry, it wasn't the current Democrats' fault. It was the previous Democrats' fault. But that's okay because all Democrats are great people. This makes no sense. The mental gymnastics you have to go through as a Democrat to support some of these Democratic candidates, some of these elected officials, it's mind-boggling. It's got to be emotionally draining. I don't know how Democrats get through day after day after day trying to support these politicians that are making these dramatic problems in our nation that are negatively impacting our lives. I do not understand it. It does not make sense to me. I don't know why people want to do it. These spies, this should be a major story. 2 spies under 2 different governors of New York. A decade of spying for China. This is a direct harm to our national security. It's a direct problem to our economy. This is, and how many other spies did these spies put into the New York state government? How many people did they help to get jobs so that they could spy on various aspects of New York State and the United States government because these guys recommended them? How many people, how many spies potentially are now in our government because Kathy Hochul gave these guys a raise? Because Andrew Cuomo hired them in the first place. And you can, and many people can make the case they knew they were corrupt. It's like the Confucius Institute, which we have covered on this channel many times. And you can look this up. Binghamton University, even though Binghamton University is fully aware that the Confucius Institute has been kicked out of 20 different countries, and that in the United States, they are suspected of being a spy farm, that agents of China go into colleges to recruit and to convert students into spies for China and into members of supporters of communism. And Binghamton University, knowing that there's a lawsuit going on, knowing that 20 countries kicked out the Confucius Institute, they have the Confucius Institute on Bingham University grounds because they get $200,000 a year. Binghamton University is one of the New York State colleges, a SUNY. That's the State University of New York. They get federal funding. They don't need $200,000. That's not breaking the bank. That means somebody is getting paid. That's somebody getting paid in either perks or dollars, kickbacks. And that's why the Confucius Institute exists in Binghamton University in the center of New York State, creating, allegedly, spies that are going into the New York State government and God knows, possibly the federal government, like they did with Eric Swalwell. And Democrats say, well, no, that's perfectly fine. It's okay. You're just racist. They think that I'm upset about this because these people are Asian. I don't care. I don't care they're Asian. I do care that they're working for China, but I'm not upset with China because they're Asian. I'm upset with China because they're communists, because they are antithetical to America and capitalism. That's why I'm upset. I'm upset that these people, we could have got rid of them when we got rid of Andrew Cuomo, and instead they got more power and they had more of a reach into our government with Kathy Hochul. And the media is trying to downplay this. They're trying to make it as if this didn't exist. They're forgetting about this. They have thrown this into the trash and they don't want to talk about it. They do not want to talk about this. This is not headline news. It should be news across this nation. Spies in our state governments for a decade? What did they find out? What information did they pass on to China? What did they do to corrupt our government? That is national news. This is a national security story. And the news media are like, well, no, this is Andrew Cuomo's fault. It's not a big deal. Let's move on. Don't talk about Kathy Hochul. It has nothing to do with the 2026 governor's race. It's got nothing to do with Kathy Hochul. She just hired these guys. She just made sure that they got a raise. She made sure they were deeply entrenched in New York state government. And we should give Kathy Hochul 4 more years so that she can give even more spies for China and God knows which other country. We should give her more of an opportunity to entrench spies, to destroy our government, to endanger our national security. That's what the news media is saying to you. That's what Spectrum News is saying in this story. It's ridiculous. You know what, guys? I've been on for about 2 hours, 15 minutes, which is about what I expected. I wanted to be on for 2 hours. It's Wednesday. It's the middle of the week. We all have a lot of things that we're trying to do. And I hope that people were able to see this and find something of interest. I know that some of the Republicans are mad at me because, oh my God, you talk bad about Elise Stefanik. She earned it. Some Democrats are going to be mad because I talked about mass immigration. I talked about Kathy Hochul. I'm talking about what's going on with Chuck Schumer and the government shutdown, which has ended. But I'm not wrong. Here's the thing. If you're upset, are you upset because I told you the truth and I'm showing you the sources, internationally credible sources? Or are you upset that, well, I'm a Republican and I told you this? Are you upset that I told you, or are you upset that it happened? There's a big difference there. You may be upset that it happened. You shouldn't be upset with me. We all should be upset that these things have happened, that we're getting politicians at the lowest level of effort. We should all be upset about that. I don't know. Maybe I'm just talking into the wind. I'm sure that YouTube will try and censor this to hell and they will suppress it and not let people see this, but I'm trying, folks. I am not giving up. I'm going to try and raise as much money as I can for the Jericho project. We have until the end of the year, I hope, to raise $2,000 to give the Jericho project a check for $2,000. That needs your help. Buy a mug over on Zazzle, or a t-shirt, or a sweatshirt, or a hoodie. There's a bunch of different designs. Buy one of those. Give it away as a Christmas gift to somebody. Give a super reaction or a super chat on this or during the Sunday live streams. Anytime I'm live, do a super chat. Do a super reaction after the fact. Go to Rumble. Do a Rumble rant. It all adds up. Or you can go to Patreon, pay $1.50 a month. You're part of my support in the channel. $1.50 a month. It adds up. Invite all of your friends. We got 2,000 people. If everybody who's signed up for this channel were to be on my Patreon, I'd be able to give $1,000 to the Jericho project in January. Probably give them $2,000 in January. If everybody who subscribed to this channel was part of my Patreon for $1.50 a month. That's your choice. Like, share, subscribe. I can't ask more than that. Well, I can ask for more, but you don't have to do anything. It's up to you. But know that I do not trust Zoran Mandami. I do not trust Kathy Hochul. They're not going to help people because they aren't helping people. They're helping spies. That's not American people. They're inviting people to come from other countries into America as illegal aliens. That's not helping America. We've got politicians like Chuck Schumer and several others, Dick Durbin and others, who are keeping America closed so people can be hungry so that they can score political points because they think that that will help them win in 2026. It's sad, folks. It's sad. But you know what? If you've been here for 5 minutes or you've been here for the entire 2.5 hours, I appreciate you. Whether you agree or disagree with me, doesn't matter. I appreciate that you heard, whether it's 5 minutes or 2.5 hours. I appreciate you and your time. I thank you for spending part of your middle of the week with me. And I look forward to seeing your comments. I look forward to seeing you every Sunday at 2:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time when I do my live stream every week. We've been doing it for 8 years now. Just that Sunday live stream, 8 years in a row we've been doing that. And I hope you will join us for it. I hope to hear your voice. I hope you will help us support the Jericho Project. And I hope that we can all have a great holiday season together. Please remember, if you are alone, if you're feeling negative, if you have negative emotions, you have dark thoughts, give a call. Let me put back on the screen. There is help for everyone. Do not feel like you are alone this holiday season. 24 hours a day, 24/7, if you are feeling like you might harm yourself or others, you can reach out to the suicide hotline. You can text or call 988 and they will speak with you and help you. Or reach out and talk to one of your friends, one of your family members. Don't give in to those dark emotions. I want you to be part of my audience in 2026. I want you to be part of my audience in 2027, 28. Keep going forward. Please, don't give up. I'm not giving up on you. I'm not giving up on you. Don't give up on yourself. With that said, I thank you guys for having been here with me. I hope you're going to have a great Wednesday. I look forward to seeing all of your comments. I'm going to go and check on my dog again because he's 14 years old and he's got a cold or something. But I thank you. I appreciate you. I'll talk to you again soon.